Good morning, everyone. It's Joker, and today we are back with another slime video. And the Vengeance rerun has arrived. You are now able to get free-to-play Vengeance Youm. This is a big moment for all free-to-play players who have not yet been able to pick him up, either because they started too late, or they started too late and they were just shafted. Shafted out of belief because the game refuses to bring back these characters on a more rotational basis. So this goes up to EX3, unlike the more current beatdown battles where it stops at EX2 and then goes to Inferno. So there is another difficulty level. They do have quite a bit of HP and they do have quite a few gimmicks for EX3. 11,000 attack, 10,000 defense. This is meant for a defensive meta where you can seal them using Vengeance Raphael. So they're going to have a lot of attack buffs that you may or may not really be ready to deal with at this time. But I already have a video out from, when this originally came out, back, almost a year ago. So I'll have this video linked in the description below. And today we're going to show off some teams that didn't exist at the time, or not fully existed, before Vengeance came out. So we're going to use the idols, we're going to use, the most popular one is going to be the Exalted Champion team. Teams that were not a thing when Vengeance originally ran. Now, you get the dupes from clearing up to EX2, but in the shop, as long as you can clear one of the fights, any one of them, you can grind up the currency to just buy Youm, buy his dupes, buy his skill enhancements, and I very heavily suggest, maybe too light of a term, I demand that all players who do not have Youm maxed out, max him out. There's no, ifs, ands, or buts. We do not know if he will ever return. We have not yet had a double rerun of an EX meta. Fount of Wisdom, Warrior's Mind, World of Fantasy, they have never come back for a third time. I don't know when they will. So if this is your only chance to get Youm, you better fucking use it. You better level him up. And if you tell me in Discord or on chat that you didn't because you felt lazy or you didn't think you were going to use him, I'm going to call you a fucking idiot. Okay? So, let's now begin and look at the teams that can take on up to EX3 of his beatdown battle. The first team that will be able to clear EX3 pretty easily is the Exalted Champions team. One, because you have a very strong AoE character and a number of different strong support units, but also Protector Velzard is giving you extra damage against water, which is what the Vengeance team did, because their nuker technically was Furry Shuna, who was a wind character. So already Velzard's going to give you a top-tier damage against this fight. And so we're running free-to-play Isis, free-to-play Geld. We're running Guy, the Wind-Masked Hero for her AoE ult, and then Visions of Kolia's Violet. We have two 4-star characters here, because if we look at it, let me pull it back up. Let me close this. The Inferno 3 stages have missions that want 8 turns or less, all magic characters, 2 characters with initial rarity of 4-star or less, and 2 wind characters. This team satisfies all of those conditions. Isis and Geld start at 4-star. They get it done. This entire team is magic. That gets it done. We have 2 wind characters, the Hero and Geld. That gets it done. You can very easily clear it in 8 turns. That gets that mission done. So if you can build this or some semblance of it, this will clear Inferno 3. That's how powerful it is. It will clear Inferno 3. If you don't have Violet, you can substitute Rain in, and you can still do it in not a lot of turns. But the entirety of this fight is rushing the EX Hero ult. If you need it, you can get the AoE ult for Guy, maybe his EX ult as well, to do additional damage. Otherwise, this is very simple. We're running the skill point units on turn 1, so we have enough points to use both Isis Green Buff and Orb Change. Or you can bring Veldora. He can change the first 2 orbs as well. That's perfectly an acceptable option. But we're going to send this 6 just on Dino. He's the only unit that ults you. The other 2 just hit you with punches. So he is the only big-time AoE damage dealer. But now, we don't even have really 3 orbs for the hero, right? Ideally, you would want 3 orbs to steal, but with this team, it doesn't really matter because Guy's going to be able to rush the ult. So as long as it's not Guy getting 3 orbs, it's fine, because we can just steal this. We can use the hero's AoE skill to do additional damage to Carrion and Daggerel. We're going to rush the ult with Guy, and that'll give both him and the hero an ult. And now that we have the green buff from Isis active, Velzard's going to change all these orbs to green, and we've got a 6th send. This is going to get the hero EX ult, because we already have a free free ult gauge. And then, yeah, here's the follow-up, or not follow-up, but the AoE orbs for her. And it's taken off chunks. And all we had was the Velzard buff, right? That's all we had. Plus maybe the small damage buff I think the hero puts on her own orbs, 25, 10%, somewhere around there. And now, the ults are nerfed by 30%. What a tragedy. Does not matter. Bring Violet in, use her 80-point buff, or bring Rain in and use her 25-point 40% magic damage because it's turn 3, you'll still do fine. So we'll send Guy, we'll send the hero, we've used the synergy buff from Guy as well. Guy does 155, and the hero does 522. That's EX3. You don't need Violet to make this run. You don't really need the hero either. If you can buff up Guy enough, he can do that damage. Maybe with some extra follow-up. And as proof, I will show you this clip. And this team, we're using Veldora, Bride, Shuna, in case you don't have a triple orb stealer. She's been featured multiple times. We've got a double skill fused Octagram Lumi. Violet's still here, and we're just going to nuke with Guy, and the team runs pretty much the same way. On turn 3, we have an EX ult for Guy, and we're going to go I think another turn just to build up enough points. But apart from that, we don't really need to do much here. So, actually, we might not even go another turn. Yeah, okay, we're going to go another turn. We're going to use the synergy buff first. And we're going to buff up with Lumi, trying to get as much damage as we can on her. Mostly the AoE buff, more than anything else. But then we'll take Guy out, so he can keep his synergy power. And then we'll just burn a turn of this. We have the Veldora buff active, so we're going to get a lot of gauge off of this. And then we can nuke on turn 4 instead. But, you don't need the masked hero. You don't even need Milim, right? Milim's a single target character. She's not going to do too much here. She can nuke one of them out of existence easily, right? But this is an AoE fight, so I'm not going to bring a single target nuker. Turn 4 comes up. We have a Veldora ult. He's going to do additional damage as well, because he's on the team. But Shuna has orbs that we can swap out, or we can take out Lumi. It doesn't really matter all that much. Violet will come in. We'll use the magic buff. We'll use Velzard again. Technically we can give Veldora the synergy buff as well. There's nothing really wrong against that. But this team comp as well, while it doesn't satisfy, the 2 win character missions or the 2 4-star missions, it will still get EX2 done, and it doesn't require you to have another character from the Exalted Champions team that was on a separate banner. So Veldora does 187. Excellent. Guy does 535. This is with the extra AoE buff and the extra ult damage from Octagram Lumi, but both these versions of the team are perfectly capable of doing EX3. I think I've been calling it EX2 the entire time, but EX3 is what I mean. Alright, and just in case you only have Protector Velzard, and you have the free-to-play Guy, or not Guy, but Veldora, sorry, you can still beat it with this team. So we've got Coleus Violet, we've got First Anniversary Dark Rimuru, and Dark Milim. Now, they are both alongside Veldora on Exalted Champion, so they do get that extra 60% damage buff. And if you play your cards right, you can actually have this Rimuru keep his crit and his crit damage. Coleus Rimuru will be our backup nuker because he does not get that 60% damage buff, and he is also not going to get that crit rate because we need his EX ult to do good damage. And then Dark Milim, she's here for her ult buff. If she's skill fused, you can also give both the Rimurus an extra 25% attack. If she's not giving anything to anybody except the ult. She gives herself a 15% ult attack buff. But this is very helpful. First Aina Rimuru is skill fused. It doesn't really make a difference here because he's still giving Dark allies guaranteed crit, guaranteed guarantee crit damage, but it's really only for him, as we'll see shortly. So, turn 1, Veldora changes Exalted Champion orbs to green. Violet is not Exalted Champion. Neither is Coleus Rimuru. So, in order to use this, we need to bring in Milim into slot 1 to replace Violet, then use the orb change, boom, and then we'll bring in Coleus Rimuru. Now, turn 2 is your biggest RNG because you need at least 3 Coleus Rimuru orbs, and you need to have a full hand of blues. It's a pretty big ask, but we're going to send him first because he doesn't get extra damage. Veldora and Rimuru do. First Annie Rimuru do. So they're going to do just more overall. So here, we get 4 orbs for him, and we can convert it using both him and Violet, because we need a full hand of blues, so then we can change it to all rainbows, so we can get his EX ult. But here is where you need to play and get First Annie Rimuru out, because turn 2 is where they seal the crit on the front line only. So a backline unit will still get it. So Violet will come in for First Annie Rimuru, therefore avoiding the crit seal on him, and she can convert, and we still have enough points to turn it into rainbows, which ensures that alongside the green buff that we used for Veldora, we're going to get his EX ult. The charm that I'm running here is Dark Attack, which is kind of redundant because Velzard's already doing that anyways. We could have used an AoE charm. You could have used a heal charm if you want. I've had a few runs where my characters died accidentally, so sometimes not great. We're going to send Dark Milim last because she again gets damage. We're going to spread the damage out between the 3 because we're going to AoE and we want them all to be dead at the same time. So there's that hand. There's the EX ult. We're going to take this. Here comes the seal. There it is. So this is why we put First Annie Rimuru in the back. Since he's going to get the extra 60% damage buff, he's actually going to do more damage than Coleus Rimuru's EX ult. So this is very important. Now we bring him in, and now we're going to bring Violet in for Milim. Now we have a full hand of greens that are still buffed by Veldora, because he lasts 2 turns, and we have enough orbs to get Rimuru's ult. And now after this turn, you just have to wait. This turn we send the greens, we get his ult, we get points, we don't use any skills, so we're at 130. And then on turn 4, you just need to live. You can send 6 orbs, you can send 1 orb, but you can't send the ults, and everyone, maybe except Veldora, has to live. So we're going to get down real low HP here. 1, 2, cheeky counter right there. Carrying comes in, smacks Violet again. So now we're looking pretty low, but we're going to bring in Coleus Rimuru now, because I want both Rimurus up front, therefore they can get all of the buffs. Because if we don't bring him in, then we're going to have to do some wonky, weird things. Coleus Rimuru won't get the Dark Attack. It's just going to get a little messy. So, just going to send these orbs right here that are not nerfed. We could have sent the 4th one. Don't ask me why I didn't. And now we just have to not die. So, 1, 2, 3. Perfect. We have won. So, because Rimuru is not sealed, First Annie, we can use the crit buff. We can now bring Violet in for Veldora, give both of them the magic buff. Boom. And then we'll bring Milim in, give them both the attack buff and the ult buff. And then we can use the crit skill for Rimuru. Boom. And now we're good. And you can see that we still have 15 points left over. First Annie Rimuru's skill fusion drops it from 55 to 40. But even if he wasn't skill fused, we would still have exactly enough points to use the 55 pointer. So here, we've used Velzard. We now have the element damage. Coleus Rimuru, 247. Decent. First Annie Rimuru, 400k. And that is enough to take out EX3 without Milim, without the hero, without Guy for Exalted Champion Velzard. The next team is, of course, the Idols. It's hard to get around them right now. This is a defensive but green orb focused beatdown battle. This is very much a defensive green focused team. It's just that we don't have any wind characters on Pretty Sparkle. Like, straight up, there are no wind characters. So, we're going to have to do this the hard way, and take them out one by one with Mirai, and occasionally do some ult damage, or AoE damage with Shizuka. But we've brought, again, 2 4-star units, Isis and Eren, for orb changing. Tsubasa can orb change as well, but these 3 girls are Pretty Sparkle, which means they will be invincible. Isis and Eren never see the front line apart from turn 1. That's it. You just stack with Rimuru, and eventually Mirai does enough damage. So, I mean, I'll show you turn 1. We're not even using the skill point units to use Ice's skill turn 1. We're just going to use her orb change. And then turn 2, we'll use the green buff, and then we'll bring Mirai and Shizuka in, or in some way, shape, or form, we'll do one of the two. I think we take Tsubasa out, because she's not really doing much here. So, orb change with Isis, and then both these girls come in. They both have turn 2 protection gauge traits as their support slots. We have, Water Shion under Shizuka, and we have either Evil Rimuru or Earth Jean underneath Mirai. But this will get us more protection gauge on turn 2. Not that we need it, because we already have a Rimuru. It just makes life a little bit easier. And we're just going to focus on Dino first, because Dino is the character that does the ults. So the faster you can kill him, the faster you will take less damage from the stage overall. But this will not get it done in 8 turns. This is going to take a while. We don't have anyone that's type advantage. We don't have an extra damage buff from the Protector coming in. It's just type neutral nuking. And just using the raw power of 12% magic attack stacks from Rimuru, and the hopefully 12% live mode buff that we're getting from either Mirai or Shizuka. The weakness strike from Shizuka means nothing here. We're not type advantage. There's no reason to use that skill unless you have to heal for something. And I think I do have to heal once in this run, but we're not going to see it because I'm going to fast forward through this. Because essentially, after turn 2, this is what you do. You have as many green orbs as you can in a hand. You use Rimuru, you use the future hand of greens from Mirai, and every turn you trade off, whether it's Shizuka or Mirai's live mode, and you just stack, and stack, and stack, until Dino dies, and then you focus on somebody else until they die, and you do it again and again and again. And it's very boring, it's very mind-numbing, but it gets the job done, and you are protected pretty much the entire time. Now, because I never bring Isis back up front, I never use her green orb buff again, which means there are going to be some turns where I don't have Rimuru active, and you won't as well, and you'll have to determine whether you want to take those damages or something else you want to do. Maybe bring Isis in for a turn when he's not nuking or ulting you, try and get away with another green buff, make your life easier. Very possible. I just decided to do it the hard way, but this is turn 3. We're going to skip to turn 8. And Dino's dead. Because we've nuked him out of existence with single targets from Mirai, who's just gotten stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger. And now we're going to focus on Carrion, and we're doing 17k hit. Mirai's doing under 200% or probably like 38 to 40, 42. And we're taking chunks off. And that's it. And now we're on turn 11, and it's just Daggerel with this much health, and we're still sending greens. So the idols, very, very easy to cheese this and get it out of the way. And there we go. There's the final blow. 37k on a normal orb for her. And 11 turns, it's done. Let's move on. Another team that didn't really exist at the time is the Overlord meta. Protector Rimuru. Lumi definitely did not have her double skill fusion at the time. Isis did exist. Soe did exist. I don't think he had his skill fusion, though. He may have. I might be misremembering. Doesn't really matter. But we're going to nuke with my goddess, my goddess of destiny, Souka. And we're going to bring Overlord Shizu for extra damage support. So we've got the AoE buff plus the ult buff from Lumi, the stacking element damage from Rimuru, the weakness strike and alt resistance down, and then Souka does have that small specific attack buff depending on how many Goddess of Destiny or World of Fantasy characters there are. It's gonna be 20% I think total, so it's not big, but it does help, and this team can certainly do it because you are running the skill point units. Soe is already giving you 6 points, so you just put Lumi or Space Millum underneath him and you get the 12. That way you can use both Isis skills turn 1 and you just stack. You might take some damage. Maybe you put a heal charm on Rimuru instead of the protection gauge on greens. Not really that big of an impact, but the team can do it. You have type advantage Souka. You have type advantage Shizu. You have 2 wind characters. You don't have a full magic team because Soe is here. But Soe, being defensive, he can help negate the damage that you're going to be taking from the AoE ult, from the counterattacks, from the follow-ups that they're doing. And because Rimuru resets it, you can pretty much always have it active no matter where you want it. And Souka, we don't have a lot of orb change in this hand, or this team, because we're going to pretty much run it off of Souka's future hand of greens. So we just have to get around turn 2, and we do have a double converter, right? We have Isis and we have Soe. So Soe's doing double duty here. Change these two oranges, give us the defense buff. We'll use the future hand, and we have enough to use the AoE buff from Lumi. These will give us extra ult gauge on the ults as well. And Shizu is ult swapping away, so we can hold for an EX ult on Souka. I think I go to turn 8 on this. I don't think I have to go to turn 8 on it, though. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We've put the defense up and we've lowered their attack, so Dino's ult is going to do how much damage here? How much damage? 2,600? Yeah, that's not bad. That is easily workable. And if you have a heal charm on Rimuru, it's even better. So just always keep them nerfed, always keep your defense up. Sometimes it means leaving Soe in instead of bringing someone else in, unfortunately, but you want to make sure that, especially when he's ulting, you want everybody up front to have full defensive capability. So right here, we don't really have that, because I don't want to send Souka's ult yet, but I very easily could have, and just not brought Shizu up. Or, I just take Lumi out, use the Shizu ult swap, and then reuse the defense buff from Soe, because we got 45 points. So, let's do it. Everybody has a defense buff. Everybody is still attack nerfed. So we're looking good. That's an EX ult for Souka. You could either send it turn 4, or you could continue to hold on to it. But you will eventually do enough damage to take out everybody on this front line. And since we are now using Souka's future hand of greens, we don't need any orb changing anymore, right? We have a triple ult swapper to green. We're going to guarantee that the three orbs coming in are green. So you don't need to orb change with Soe or Isis. Maybe you use the Isis green buff, sure, why not? It'll make life easier, but this is also just so free and easy, and now you can continue to buff up Souka with Octagram Lumi while keeping everyone protected by the defense buff. So, again, we don't need to sit here for the entire time. You understand how this team is going to operate. You know what must be done. And you just kind of stack with Rimuru on Souka. Eventually, you'll use the Shizu buff. Once maybe you get done using all of the stacks of Lumi, that's when you nuke. So we're at 20% AoE damage right here. So we have one more usage of the AoE skill from Lumi. Now that's capped out. We still need to use 2 more stacks? Or 3 more stacks of the ult buff, though. So I think that's why I go to turn 8 here. But again, more defense keeps you protected. They're not even ulting, but always keep yourself protected. It's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. And that goes true for guns, and it goes true for condoms. Life advice right there. 42 damage, 602 damage, 213 damage, 1 damage right there. Soe's pretty good. He does his job, and he does it quite well. So let's skip ahead. We're on turn 7. And we're going to swap... Okay, we're going to swap away, so let's go to turn 8, actually. Alright, so there's the Weakness Strike and the Ult Resistance Down buff from Shizu. We are fully maxed out on Octagram Lumi. One more stack of Rimuru to give us another 10% wind damage for Souka. We'll send Lumi first because she's AoE. I mean, she's getting all the buffs too, right? Just not type advantage. But she does 105. Okay, whatever. But then Souka does 680. Alright, she would have one-shot them at full HP. So this team can also definitely do it. It just necessitates the Overlord characters, or some of them at least, which you may or may not have. Alright, the final team is a really difficult team for people to make because it requires a number of EX characters, specific characters. Xion, Rimuru. Free-to-play Diablo is free-to-play, right? He's already come back once on a rerun as well. Second Anniversary Hinata, Milim, and Shinsha. This team is really, really difficult to make it work, and it requires a lot of EX characters, but it can technically do it. So, turn 1, and the entirety of this turn is that we need to get the Milim EX ult, but we also have to send her away on turn 2, just like we did with that Exalted Champions, but, Rimuru team, is because we do not want her to be crit nerfed. Why am I sitting here waiting for such a long time? Alright, so we're going to bring the units in. We're going to get a little bit of alt gauge. We're going to send the greens. Because we can't really change anything out of this. So here, we've guaranteed that we have 3 orbs for Milim. That's going to be very, very important. And now we're going to send Milim away. And we're going to send whatever orbs that are not hers that'll just help us clear space for her. Because now that we have 3 orbs for somebody, we can guarantee that since Milim has the highest attack, the Diablo orb giveaway will hit Milim. So Fount of Wisdom Rimuru has, I think, 4 orbs here. So we're going to bring Milim in for Fount of Wisdom Rimuru, use Diablo's giveaway, use his orb buff / crit debuff, because we don't really need that right stat now. We need the EX ult. So 6 orbs, giveaway, the buff, and this will get the EX ult, and then we're going to use the future hand of oranges to make sure the next hand is going to be exactly what we want. We're only going to get the Milim ult, which means that we have the free 0-point ult swap next turn to use, and that will be another full hand of oranges. We're going to bring in Hinata, because we need her to buff Milim next turn, because we need to store both her buff and Fount of Wisdom Rimuru's buff, which is why we need to have a full hand of oranges next turn. So we don't have to use any other points, and we don't have to use Xion to get our way through it. So we're sending orbs on Dino. We could spread the damage out, whatever you want to do. We're going to take a lot of damage here, though. Like, a lot of damage. You can see that they do not like Hinata, and they do not like Shinsha. But we have the EX ult, so now we can use the Hinata buff, and we can use the ult swap from Shinsha for free, and then we can bring Fount of Wisdom Rimuru in for Hinata, since she's the lowest and the weakest, and then we can use his 80-point buff. We're going to lose the defense down, so maybe you don't actually need the Benimaru, or you could bring Benimaru, but his physical buff is lower, 50% versus 65. So that's why Rimuru is more important than that. But now Milim goes away for Diablo, because we need to hold those 2 buffs in the back. And then we just need to go to turn 5 to get that extra 30 points from Xion, and that will give us enough to use both Milim and Shinsha's buff, and then we can nuke here safely. And now I'm starting to spread the damage out. We have an EX ult for Shinsha. I mean, we could send orbs here. We actually have enough to nuke now. And we have everything, so we might as well. So maybe, we don't actually go to turn... Well, it is turn 5. What am I talking about? We have the points. We're ready to nuke. I just need to... I really wish we had more Milim orbs than anything else, but at least everyone up here will get the physical buff. So Milim buff, Shinsha buff. We'll use Xion now. We have a double use of her, so we could have used one earlier. It doesn't really matter all that much. But Milim is AoE, Shinsha is single target, so she'll be the follow-up just in case Dino somehow lives. But we'll send it, and Milim does 618k. Perfect. That's kind of why you want to spread the damage out, so that across the board, all their health pools are the same, so they all die at the same time. But there are, I think, 5 teams of varying degrees of usefulness that can clear EX3 alongside the actual Vengeance team, which I assume you know how to run, so that's why I didn't include it. If you want to watch the actual Vengeance team beat this, you can refer back to one of my older videos. And again, the video in the description has a bunch of alternate teams that I used to clear this when it first came out last August. But if you have any other teams that can do this, please let me know in the comments. Otherwise, that's it from me, guys. Take it easy, and I'll see you all later.